We wanted to do this documentary so people wouldn't have to always stare and take pictures 'cause we don't like when they take pictures. So, they just knew who we are and stuff. On March 7, 1990, doctors said these twins had less than 1% chance of surviving their first birthday.
But they did survive.
They learned to walk, drive, and teach elementary school. Then in 2021, one of them did something that broke the internet.
She got married. Not both of them, just one.
The wedding stayed secret for 3 years until someone found the footage. Now everyone is asking the same uncomfortable questions. How does this work? What happens to the other sister? And why were they photographed with a newborn baby last summer? On March 7, 1990, 2 babies were born who were never expected to see their first birthday. Doctors believed their music chances of surviving even a single year were less than 1%. Yet the life that followed did not become a tragedy or a medical mystery. In many ways, the sisters who arrived that day grew up living a life they still describe as very ordinary. Their mother, Patty Hensel, was a registered nurse. During her pregnancy, she had no idea, she was carrying twins. Every ultrasound showed what looked like a single baby. The reason was simple, but unusual. The babies' heads were perfectly aligned during each scan, one directly behind the other, so the machines could only see one profile at a time. Their father, Mike Hensel, worked as a carpenter and landscaper. At one appointment, he mentioned something that seemed strange to him. He believed he could hear 2 heartbeats. The medical staff brushed the idea aside. From everything they could see, there was only one baby. Then the day of the music delivery arrived. Patty had a C-section at a hospital in Carver County, Minnesota. The procedure began like any other. Doctors and nurses prepared for the birth. The room stayed calm until the moment the babies were delivered. Then everything stopped. For a brief moment, no one spoke. Dr. Joy Westerdahl, who delivered the babies and later became their family physician for many years, would eventually describe the moment as a stunned silence that lasted about 30 seconds. The medical team stared at what they had just seen. There was one body, but there were 2 fully formed heads. The babies had 3 arms and 2 legs. Mike was not inside the delivery room at that moment. Someone stepped out to tell him what had happened. Years later, he explained how the news reached him. The words were simple and direct. They told him the babies had 1 body and 2 heads. Inside the room, Patty was still groggy from the sedation used during surgery. Through the haze, she remembers hearing one word spoken by the staff. Siamese. Confused and half awake, she asked a strange question that slipped out before she understood what was happening. She asked if she had given birth to cats. The doctors quickly realized how rare the situation was. The twins were what medicine calls dicophalic parapagus twins. It means 2 heads attached to a single body. In most cases like this, the babies live only a few minutes or a few hours after birth. The doctors were honest with the parents. They said the girls were not expected to survive the night. They also explained another option. Surgery could attempt to separate the babies. But the truth behind that choice was heartbreaking. The twins shared too many organs. They shared the same circulatory system, the same liver, and the same reproductive organs. Separating them would almost certainly mean one of them would die. Patty later explained what the doctors had described to them. If surgeons attempted it, the body would essentially be cut straight down the middle. Mike asked the only question that mattered to him. How could anyone choose between the 2? So, the family made their decision. They would keep their daughters together. Years later, the girls themselves spoke about that choice. They said they never wished they had been separated. In their minds, separation would mean losing the chance to do the simple things they love. Playing softball, meeting new people, running. Soon after birth, surgeons performed one early operation. The twins had a small third arm between their necks that was not functional. Doctors removed it while they were still infants. Their parents gave them names, Abigail Lorraine, Brittany Lee. Then they brought them home and began raising 2 daughters who happened to share one body. As doctors studied their condition, they used a long medical phrase that sounded almost impossible to say. Dasalic paraphagus drachus dipus. The words come from Greek and described their exact anatomy. 2 heads positioned side by side.
2 arms, 2 legs.
Even among conjoined twins, Abby and Brittany were unusual. Doctors described them as highly symmetric. In simple terms, their bodies were balanced in a way that made survival far more possible than in most similar cases. Each twin has her own brain. Each has her own spinal cord. They also have separate esophaguses, stomachs, gallbladders, and hearts. Their spines run beside each other and meet at the very bottom of the body.
They have 4 lungs in total.
2 of them sit closer together in the middle and are partially fused. Their blood circulates through one shared system, even though each twin has her own heart pumping inside it. This means something interesting happens with anything they consume. If one twin takes medicine, drinks alcohol, or eats something unusual, it enters the bloodstream of both. Inside their body, they share some organs as well. They have 3 kidneys. 2 are on the left side and 1 is on the right. They have 1 large liver, 1 large intestine, 1 bladder, 1 pelvis, and a single set of reproductive organs. But the most fascinating part of their anatomy lies in the nervous system. Each twin controls exactly one side of their shared body. Abby controls the right arm and the right leg. Brittany controls the left arm and the left leg. Even their sense of touch follows this
pattern.
Abby feels things only on the right side of the body. Brittany feels things only on the left side. There is only a small overlap right at the center of their body where both can feel sensation. There is one curious exception though. When their stomach aches, the pain is felt by the opposite twin because of where each stomach sits inside the body. This split control means that every movement in daily life requires perfect teamwork. Walking requires 2 separate brains to agree on every step. The same is true for clapping, swimming, riding a bicycle, or even sitting down smoothly. Yet somehow they learn to do it naturally. They learn to crawl and walk at almost the same ages as other children. Doctors who followed their growth found it remarkable. Over time, they learned to swim, play volleyball, bowl, ride bikes, and even play piano together. When they sit at the piano, Abby plays the notes on the right side, while Brittany handles the lower keys on the left. They even type emails as if they are one person. Often, they seem to know what the other is thinking before a word is spoken. Their health can also differ in surprising ways. One twin can be sick while the other feels completely fine. Their brains, music, control separate immune responses, even though the blood in their body is shared. At one point, Brittany was diagnosed with pneumonia.
It happened twice.
During one illness, Abby remained perfectly healthy, but she still had to stay in bed because Brittany was too weak to get up. During that long stretch of boredom and frustration, something unusual happened. Abby briefly mentioned the idea of separation. Brittany immediately began to cry. The moment passed quickly. Abby reassured her sister that they would always stay together. After that day, the topic never came up again. As they grew older, differences between them also became visible. Abby is 5 feet 2 inches in tall. Brittany is 4 feet 10 inches in. Because of the 4 inches difference, Brittany often walks slightly on tiptoe with her left leg. Over time, this made the muscle in that calf stronger and larger than Abby's. Their heads also tilt in slightly different directions. Abby's tilts a few degrees to the right. Brittany leans a little more to the left. When they were 12 years old, doctors at Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare performed an important surgery. The twins had developed scoliosis, and the doctors needed to correct the curve in their spine. During the same procedure, they expanded their chest cavity to make breathing easier as they grew older. Another careful decision followed later. Brittany had stopped growing earlier than expected, while Abby continued to grow. To keep their bodies balanced, surgeons eventually stopped Abby's spinal growth so their shared body could remain stable. New Germany, Minnesota is the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. It is a small rural town in Carver County with a population of about 400 people. For the Hensel family, that small size meant something important. Life there felt normal. Patty and Mike raised their children there. Abby and Brittany grew up alongside their younger sister Morgan and their younger brother Dakota, who everyone called Cody. In a town that small, people did not see them first as a medical mystery. They simply saw them as the Hensel girls. Their parents worked hard to make sure life stayed that way. Patty and Mike believed their daughters should grow up just like any other kids. They avoided unnecessary medical testing and refused to let their daughters use their condition as an excuse for anything. From the message at home was simple. You can live a normal life and you can chase anything you want. The twins later explained it clearly in their TLC series. Their parents never allowed them to fall back on their condition. Life had challenges, of course, but the idea of giving up was never an option. They grew up believing they could do anything they wanted, so that is exactly what they tried to do. Even their longtime family doctor understood that approach. Dr. Westerdahl treated them for years, and he knew the family's wishes. The girls were unique, yes, but the goal was always to treat them like anyone else. He had to respect that balance and avoid getting too involved unless it was truly necessary. So, the twins grew up doing the same things other kids in their town did. They played volleyball from elementary school and kept playing all the way through high school, later even becoming volleyball coaches. They also joined softball and basketball teams. They swam in competitions and spent time bowling with friends. Music, life moved along with practices, school days, and weekends filled with small-town activities. Most of their classmates accepted them without much trouble. Growing up together helped people already knew them, and that familiarity made a difference. Still, there was one thing that never stopped bothering them. Strangers who stared, strangers who quietly pulled out cameras. Abby once spoke openly about how much they hated that people would take pictures without asking, treating them like a spectacle instead of two girls living their lives. When that happened, they did not stay quiet about it. They made their frustration clear, and they were not shy about embarrassing anyone who crossed that line. As the twins got older, they kept pushing toward independence. One of the biggest moments came when they turned 16. Minnesota law required them to pass separate driving tests, both written and practical. So, they did exactly that. Each of them completed the exams and earned a license. Driving required teamwork, just like everything else in their lives. Abby controlled the gas pedal, the brake, and the controls on the right side. Brittany handled the turn signals and the lights. They both steered together. Brittany once explained the system very simply. Abby takes care of the pedals and the gear shift. They both hold the steering wheel. Brittany handles the blinkers and the lights. It worked smoothly because they had practiced coordination their entire lives. Their mother could not help joking about the situation once. She wondered what would happen if a police officer ever pulled them over for speeding. Would both girls get a ticket? Or only Abby? Since her foot was the one pressing the accelerator, while their everyday life in Minnesota